Good evening, good afternoon, good day, depending on where you're at. Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope you're well. Hope everyone is recovering well from their Christmas celebrations and dinners. Hope it was a happy time for all. We're here taking a break from our exploration of Ireland and the UK to visit the Old West in the southwest part of the United States. We're starting just north of Tucson, Arizona, flying over the Boneyards, operated by the United States Air Force. We're then going to make our way over Tombstone, Arizona. Perhaps lay eyes on the OK Corral from a distance. From there, we're going to land in near Douglas, and then fly to Deming on our way to El Paso. So a nice bit of scenery down this way. So looking forward to flying it with you all. So let's go to the chat and say hello to some folks. Allison Johnson is here. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. Ben McClure, evening to you as well. Noel's here. Happy Sunday to you. Jepson 2001, good evening to you. We had a good Christmas. Pardon me. Oh, frog in the throat. We had a good Christmas, and I hope you did as well. Wayland Yutani is here. Welcome, welcome. Ailerons will be in about 10. Good to see you, my friend. John Mathers, good evening. Dougal's here. We'll see you when you're able to pop in. Scott Voigt is here. Good day to you, sir. Hope you're well. Pilot Peely is here. Good evening. Papa Joe B, good afternoon to you as well. Hope you're doing fine. Jay Winokur's here. Good afternoon, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome to Arizona. What's the... Yeah, it's possible. Yep, yeah, it should be East USA. Looks like we got somebody taking off right now. So, we're going to be doing this fantastic desert-ish trip in the old, reliable 172. We're here in just north of Tucson. As we can see, we already have some friends in the fancy new Flying Club colors that were released with the big update, the VR update last week. Decided not to fly it myself. It looks like we've got a U.S. Army and a U.S. Navy King Air. Some other fun things. Philly Roach is in. Just got notified. Digesting Christmas dinner still. Understandable. War Hamster's here. Good evening. Yeah, so with the live weather, one trick that I found is if you load into the when you're doing the flight planning in the world menu, if you select clear skies and then hit fly now, once you get into the sim, then switch to live weather, it'll load it a lot better. Whether it's accurate or not, who knows? That's kind of up in the air in general anyhow. So, without further ado, we're going to see if we can't get our eyes on a windsock. There's one right there. So, we're going to go to the far end for takeoff. But to do that, first, Ed Reed is here. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Hope you and yours had a good Christmas. So we're going to get this crate up and running so we can get the show on the road. So mixture rich, throttle cracked, fuel cutoff open, trim set for takeoff, parking brake set, master switches on, beacon on, yell out the window clear prop. Make sure we're between 900 and 1,000 RPM. Lean the throttle a little bit so we don't foul the plugs. We're going to make sure we check our altimeter setting. Double check our directional gyro setting. Okay, Scott says, okay, first time trying this. How do I get to where you select the first parts for joining? Allison, yes, that would be him. Basically, it's the taxiway, but we're going to head to the runway. I can't tell what it is. Just look for me, and we'll. Yeah, you. As long as you see people, you should be good to go. Copy. So, okay, Allison has eyes on Scott, so we're gonna just kind of flick the glare shield on just a little bit. We're gonna turn our avionics on now that the engine has had some time to warm up. We're gonna turn on our transponder, set to VFR. We're waiting for the autopilot to do its thing. Okay, checking, just making sure everything's set and good. Gonna switch that over. Checking Ed. As soon as they're uploaded, much appreciated, my friend. Name tags. If you go into the options menu, general settings, and I believe it's under traffic, you can toggle the name tags. If you have the UI mod, all I have to do is hit the backspace. So, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of throttle into brake momentum. Parking brake is released. Okay, we're starting to roll. We test our brakes. Brakes work. Ben McClure, another flight lesson booked for next week. Then the government decided to give us a 6-week lockdown from today. Well, that sucks. Hopefully things get kind of sorted out to some degree here soon. A lot of us are getting quite stir crazy. We have Moving Pigeon, Chilled Corky. We have some peeps at the runway. So as we cross the runway, we're going to have our strobe light on. We're going to turn right on Delta. Now put the throttle back down just a hair. I'm going to cross the next runway. We seem to be right behind ailerons into the wind. And we're clear of the runways for now, so we'll turn the strobe lights back off. So since the field elevation is currently about 2,000 feet, we're going to preset our autopilot for 5,500. Wisdom SP is here. Good to see you. So we're probably going to have a little bit of crosswind on takeoff, which is just fine. Altitude for the autopilot is set at 5,500, since we will be flying in an easterly direction. So odd 1,000 plus 500 for VFR. So I'll get to the hold short, make sure that we're all here before we get going. Alright, temporarily set the parking brake and get outside of the cockpit. We'll let everybody catch up. Ed on Discord, so far I only see 2 messages. So we'll let everyone get up. I see Old Veteran off down the taxiway. There's Warhamster, Papa Joe B, Wayland Utani, Commandant Muttley, Moving Pigeon, Pilot Peely, Alley Cats, and Ailerons into the wind. And of course, Chilled Corky is there as well. I built my own, so I can't really help you there. So while most of us are here, I'm going to go ahead and get into the air and get going on our bog standard left-hand orbit while everybody gets airborne. So mixture goes to rich, strobe lights come on, taxi light comes off, landing light comes on, nav lights are on. And we're going to go ahead and runway heading and everything's correct, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. Looks like the winds are fairly straight down the runway, which is nice. Only means a little bit of crosswind. Okay, so 45 knots, airspeed's coming alive. 55 knots, 1 notch flaps comes down. 60 knots, we're airborne. That's all right, Scott. So we're going to wait until we get to about 300 feet above the airfield before we put the flaps up. So flaps coming up. So we'll get outside and we'll do our left-hand orbit of the airfield. No worries, Ed. I'll be sure to check it out in detail after the stream. Many thanks, my friend. It should be the East USA server. So we'll keep orbiting while everyone gets up in the air. Just reading the description of what you sent there, Ed, it looks amazing. Can't wait to check it out. Many thanks. So we'll go ahead and continue the left turn. You can already see Tucson in the distance as Chilled Corky has caught up. So, oh, servers doing their thing. So we're gonna go to more towards cruise power. It's all good, Ed. Don't be in a rush. So we're going to set power for where we're at in the we'll start leveling off a little bit. We're going to go ahead and activate nav mode, or arm nav mode. Set our vertical speed on the autopilot. We're already almost there. As it seems the server has blinked everyone out. That's okay. We're all on the same course in the same general vicinity. It'll be fine. Well, it must not like me at the moment then, but that's okay. That figures. As long as we're still flying all on the same line, it should be just fine. Two-Tone and Seamus have wandered in. We are keeping well, Murph. It's happy to help out Seamus. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Uh-oh. Warhamster has the old no G1000 bug. So, just for the sake of reference, as people have begun to re-pop in, I'm indicating just under 100 knots. I'm at altitude. I'm going to set for 2400 RPM, roughly 88% throttle with 41% mixture. The gang's all here. I didn't want to spoil too much of the stream, especially since Murphy was doing his stream earlier today, checking out the F-15 by DC Designs that's due to release soon, and the recently released Piaggio or Focke-Wulf 149. 149? I think that's right. The thing that looks like a Navion. I see Zostris, I see Kingsman, I see Ailerons into the Wind, I see Bagdog, I see Commandant Muttley, I see the other Fireflies. There's Old Veteran, there's Chilled Corky, Papa Joe B, Warhamster, Moving Pigeon, and Wayland. The band is back together. So this first waypoint, I bring myself over to the chart, is Davis Monthan Air Force Base, which is home to one of the more notorious, one of the more well-known aircraft boneyards. And I had to check it out earlier because I've had issues with photogrammetry just tanking performance. So I've had it turned off. And I decided, well, I really want to fly over this. I want to check it out. But if it's only on the photogrammetry and not otherwise, well, it kind of defeats the purpose and I might have to suck it up. But I checked it out, and sure enough, it still shows everything in non-photogrammetry mode. So, huzzah. So we'll check that out, fly over it. Then it'll be another 53 miles to the next waypoint where we'll check out Tombstone, Arizona. Anyone familiar with the old American West would recognize. And you might recognize names such as the Y Earp and the other Earps, Virgil and Morgan, and Doc Holliday. And Allison's back. And the added bonus for this whole trip is the periodic mountains. And who doesn't love flying around mountains? It seems to be making the rounds, Peely. It just kind of... It disappeared them for me, and then everybody came back. So give it some time. It did the same thing to Allie. So just keep flying, and you should be just fine. It's in the right corral. Sydney O is here. Greetings, says greetings from Cape Town. Well, greetings from Michigan. We're currently flying over Tucson, Arizona, although it's spelled like Tuscan Raiders from Star Wars, but is from everything that I've learned, it's pronounced Tucson. Go figure. That's awesome, Peely. I haven't yet flown in this area, but though aware of it, as Ben McClure 1 is now following on Twitch, many thanks, my friend. There's a human hamster and one chipmunk. There's a lot of imposters here. But it was, I was trying to think of, I couldn't think of anything all of yesterday, which yesterday seemed to go on forever. It was about 8:30 at night. It felt like it was about 3 a.m. And I'm thinking, I just coming up with a blank for where to fly and what to look at and whatnot. Well, decided to load up SkyVector this morning after getting up during... just before, well, actually, it was during Murphy's stream, and I decided, well, you know what, this could be fun. So I looked at the American Southwest and had the thought of, well, where's the Boneyard at? And then thought of other places that would be fun to fly to, and thus the route was created. There's Human Hamster and War Hamster. There's R. Bachetta. There's Kingsman, Old Veteran, Ostrus, Andrew J. I don't think he's with us. Dougal, I see you. Yeah, people are in and out. Servers are having a laugh. Ailerons is checking out the mountains. What are your PC specs, if you don't mind sharing? Well, I do have them in my Twitch description. But if you type specs in with the exclamation point, it'll I run things basically on medium to high settings. Not a problem, my friend. So here's Davis Monthan Air Force Base. I think War Hamster has begun. I mean, you're going to have the 4 hamsters of the apocalypse soon. So you got human hamster, you've got war hamster, and apparently there's a space hamster. So the question is, what's the 4th hamster of the apocalypse? Hamster. There we go. It's the hamster. So here we begin to see where they keep the fields of things such as F-18s, F-16s, F-15s, C-5s, B-52s, you name it. Helicopters. There's all sorts of aircraft kept here. And checking it out earlier, Microsoft kind of cheaped out a little bit. There's some F-16s at different scales, some KC-135s, some C-5s, some B-52s, some CH-53s. As we make a turn on the waypoint. But they're all scattered throughout here, and they're actually modeled. Lord Demon Hamster. That's great. I've not... Chippy A is here. Birminghamster. Nice. I see what you did there. Does anyone know when the Spitfire comes out? I've not heard. So I couldn't honestly say one way or the other. So one thing that came to mind when I was exploring this earlier today, there's also P3 Orions. That's another model that they threw in here. But they're, with them actually having some models, one could hypothesize that for scenery creators, there's new default models to be able to speckle in here and there at military airports. So that's an idea. Using simple default resources. So yeah, I thought it would be fun to fly over the Boneyards, and well, there they are. It'd be a neat place to visit or have a look at in real life, but it'd have to be, you'd only be able to do it from a distance. So our next waypoint is Tombstone, Arizona. We're going to get right close to the U.S.-Mexico border once we stop at Douglas International. And it turns out that Tombstone isn't that far from the southern border of the U.S. A lot of them are stored for parts. A lot of them are technically in a somewhat flyable state, flyable but storage state in case they're needed. It's basically a big old storage place. Some will sit there forever until they're destroyed. A lot of them are used simply for parts. F-111 was definitely a unique airplane. Correct. And that's why they store them out. Here's the dry atmosphere. They just do a lot of UV protection. But yeah, so it's a good atmosphere for long-term storage. As we're meeting back up with ailerons into the wind. There goes a Bonanza. Yep. What Scott said. And there are some that are just they're there simply because their airframe or whatever parts of it they're not flyable, but they're good to keep in long-term storage for parts. And instead of trying to store a bunch of little parts, they just keep it on the airplane, or they keep the whole airplane and just store it, and they get what they need. Look at the state of the scenery. It's nice to see the contrast between where it's getting sunnier and where it's cloudy. And it's the old song, "Give me a home where the buffalo roam, the deer and the antelope play. For nary a word, a discouraging word, or nearly heard a discouraging word, and the skies are sometimes cloudy all day." As we see the mountains off in the distance with the clouds breaking up. As the chat bot reminds us to stay hydrated, drink some water, tea or coffee. Although a good tasty beverage isn't necessarily a bad thing so long as you get some water afterwards. It seems to be working fine for me as well, Allison, although I haven't exactly played with it a whole lot. Scott has a cuppa, Warhamster has a beer. Good to hear, Allison. There's Zostrus in the Bonanza in a nice red, white, and blue livery. And there we can see all our friends flying along, enjoying the scenery. Ben McClure has tea. Randy Hurst, welcome a friend. And Randy has a beer. Randy has a beer. It's water with inconvenience in it. That to me, that's what beer is. Water with inconvenience. It could just be the servers loading something, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, y'all can hear my voice, so there's that. But there's always some voice chat if people want to fly and chat at the same time. There is the Discord server. Randy, your secret is safe with me, so long as she doesn't watch the stream. But there is voice chat channels available on the Two Toad Murphy and my own Discord servers. So it can be a fun place to chat and fly at the same time. I tend to stay out of voice chat, especially when streaming, just because some people don't want to be heard on stream, or sometimes people don't want to be heard on stream, and it's my focus is on flying and the chat, and it can sometimes be a little distracting. Allison says there's a couple people in chat now. Awesome. As I see Allison, Scott, and Warhamster are all in the chat. Awesome sauce. Left or right of the big mountain getting bigger in windshield. Well, let me look straight ahead. My path says we're going to clear it. Let me double check on the chart, see what it says that the altitudes are. Okay, well we're gonna increase our power a little bit. We're gonna climb to about 7,500. What are you doing? Okay, got the autopilot sorted. We're going to temporarily go up to 7,500. As we see a Dougal McTavish flying over the motorway. So we're about 31 miles from Tombstone. There's Kingsman. As the clouds are starting to break away. Bad Dog is in the 172 and the autopilot isn't working. Well, that's not a lot to go on to try to help out. So I don't know what to tell you. Look at the state of that. Oh, that's interesting. An odd land formation. There's Red Pilot Randy. Any mod enhancements put out for the 172s or the one you have, and I don't get. Not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what the difference would be. But as and you're in the steam gauge or the G1000 172? Because that could be the only difference that I could think of. Yeah, on that, if you have the identical settings, you know, mixtures at 57, throttle's now at 100. I did that for climb. Yeah, that's, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't fly the G1000 172 all that often, so I'm unsure. I don't have any mods that affect all the aircraft, so I don't know. That is very strange. Pardon me. Interesting. I wonder if there's just some inherent discrepancy between the G1000 and the steam gauge 172s. It shouldn't. They shouldn't be different, but odd. So look at the scenery. There's another issue there. As we're starting to get into sunlight now. Right. It's interesting, though. It's definitely interesting, Joe. Because realistically, they should have the same performance. The only difference is the gauge, is the instrument clusters. But I don't know what to say. I am running live weather. That could make a difference. Yeah, that could be. Because of live weather, I'm currently at, my altimeter is at 299.8. If I hit the B key, changes at 299.0 for the altimeter setting. So the elevation of Bisbee Douglas International Airport, which is our next, well, actually, it's our first stop. The elevation, field elevation, is 4,150 feet MSL. So it's a good thing that we're at this altitude. Roger that, Papa Joe. So realistically speaking, right now we're about 3,500-ish, 3,400-ish feet above the ground, give or take. That's one of those little details that's very important in flying in this part of the country. The field elevations can change drastically from airport to airport. So even on these relatively short legs, you could be cruising at 3,500 feet and realistically be a lot closer to the ground one airport to the next. Beautiful scenery. Definitely not quite desert, but enough desert to I wouldn't want to be out here all on my own without a reasonable amount of supplies. As we have some fantastic formation flying going on. Because we can, we're going to play around with the drone camera a little bit. And I get a real bird's eye view of where we're at. Phantom Tetra's here. Afternoon to you. Hope you're well. Peeking in on Warhamster. This scenery here is just absolutely gorgeous. It looks like Warhamster had to either type or get himself another beer. There's Zostras. It's definitely not the most hospitable of landscapes, but it certainly looks gorgeous from the sky. Not somewhere I would want to be caught without supplies. So we're coming up to Tombstone here momentarily. In fact, this is the actual city part of Tombstone. We pop in the drone camera briefly. So a lot of the city still modernized, but they did keep a lot of the more historic places. I see what you did there, Dougal. But little Tombstone, Arizona is not the most metropolitan of areas these days. Back in the days of the Old West was a frontier town. Not a big place. Definitely not the biggest place. But there's some cultural significance to... There's another one of those. What's going on? It's just terrain loading. That could just be me setting that. But, you know... Ooh, there's a nice ravine there. So yeah, a lot of cultural significance to Tombstone, Arizona. As I kind of figured Tombstone would have an airport, but I kind of thought it'd be a little closer to town. But lo and behold, it's there. And from what little reading I've done on it, it used to have... Oh, camera's going. It used to be the home of at least 3 aircraft. As Dougal gets the treatment from the servers of, you don't need to see anybody right now. So there's the Tombstone Airport. Not a whole lot going on. We make a slight turn. So from here, we're on our way 25 nautical miles to Bisbee Douglas International. And there's no current METAR for that airport, so that's awesome. So we'll kind of do a workaround and check out Venture Sky. The wind speed. Let's see. The fun of flight planning. So we're probably going to want runway 18, 17. Westland helicopter flew about 120 feet above your house earlier. Scared? I bet it did. Kind of like the day a B-29 flew over my house and on its way to land at the regional airport and shook the whole house, leading me to wonder what in the world is going on. Tell you, those 4 radial engines will shake just about anything within a certain radius. Those were not small engines. So I suppose we can turn some of the interior lights off since we're now in the sunlight as opposed to the darkness. Then we have fairly long leg on our way to Deming. We'll keep 7,500 feet plugged into the autopilot system for our next leg as well, since the Deming is about 4,300 feet elevation. So we're about a little over 17 nautical miles from Deming. I'll do my best to get down first so that I can get a camera on the landings. Absolutely stunning. The contrast of the flatlands and the mountains. And you figure there's people that cross this stuff or cross this landscape, settled here with technology far less advanced as what we have today. They made it work. And that's something to think about. There's Captain Jack Daniels. White as Ice has joined It's like Rabid Voyage may have joined in the flight. There's Chippy Arnold. Tigrit 66. I have quite the crew here today. Thank you all for flying along. There's Bad Dog out there. So 11 miles out. And if we can get eyes on the airfield. Glad you enjoy them, Allison. Let's see, bet AP problem was when I turned it on, the AOA was set to maximum up and the alarm sounded constant. Now switch to the Roger that, Bad Dog. Well, at least you got it sorted out. That's what's important. Or after. So it's got to be in this general area. So being as we're 10 miles out, I got a message. I'll be darned. There's actual other stuff. Sorry, distracted. GNS 530 mod. So we're going to go ahead and disable the autopilot. If I can find the right button. I'm going to go ahead and lower the power and start our descent. Set the engine to 2,000 RPM. So I'll land first. We're looking for runway 1A17. So we're going to turn right just a tad. Going to use our trim to smooth out the descent, and so that we also lose airspeed. Yep, that's the airport right there. Or at least it should be. So we'll go to 1900 RPM. So I'll try to get down first, and then we'll record landings. Okay, we'll go ahead and lower to 1600 RPM. We want to drop maybe a little faster. Allison is 11.8 nautical miles out. So we're just about within the white arc, so we can deploy flaps. We have the runway in sight. And there's the white arc. First notch of flaps going in as we're on kind of a skewed base leg. We'll compensate with the nose pitch using trim. Check our RPMs. We're going to make sure that we're right on 1600. Good to hear, Ed. Glad that it's coming through as it should. Okay, we're a little closer, so notch 2 goes down. Using trim to compensate. So far we're a little above the glide slope. Yeah, correct. Runway 17. So we'll actually reduce top power a little bit to lose altitude. And we're on final. Last flaps. Last notch of flaps come in. Using trim to compensate. Still a little high on glide slope, but that's alright. Now we're on glide slope. We're going to go back to 1600 RPM. Maybe a little more so we can stay on glide slope. We're low now. As we spot a wild two-tone Murphy. So there's one runway 17. Winds are right down the runway. We slowly reduce power. Throttle is at idle. We're on the center line. Ooh, cleared too much. Firm back pressure on the yoke, and we're down. Keep the nose up a little bit to help slow us down, get us back towards the center line, and the nose wheel just gently touches down. How about them apples? So we'll go ahead and get our engine power settings back to idling, a proper idle setting. So about 1000 RPM. We're going to take this first taxiway. Going to put our flaps up. Our trim is set for the next takeoff. So we'll pull off to the side here. As we set the parking brake, get in the drone camera, and run or make our way out to the end of the runway to catch some landings. How about that? So runway 17 is now open for landing. Open for arrivals. So there's the proper runway, or the landing zone, I should say, to aim for. There's Kingsman. Oh boy, they're all coming in. Chilled Corky, Moving Pigeon, and Warhamster all at once. Nicely done so far as Warhamster's going for the vertical landing. Ooh, there's Jack Daniels in the extra. You don't see that plane all the time. They indeed flock together. There's ailerons into the wind. Nice approach. Nice landing. There's Pilot Peely and Dougal McTavish. And Papa Joe B. There's R. Bachetta. Red Pilot Randy is in. White on Ice. Bad Dog. There's Wayland. And we got quite the crowd today. Huzzah. There's Jeppesen 2001, the man himself. There's Commandant Muttley. Nice landings by everyone. As Alley Cats comes in. I'm almost afraid to look to see if there's anyone else. I don't want to miss any landings. There's so many of you today. And we have a caravan with Chippy. And nicely done. A little bit of a bounce, but that's okay. We have Old Veteran. That would be Scott. Incoming. We'll wait for you, my friend. So we're going to check out some of the shrubberies around here as we see cactus. Cacti. True desert scenery for sure. Yeah, we're definitely giving ATC something to think about here in Douglas International. Or here at Douglas International, I should say. Get the mountains in the distance. And it almost, you get mountains whichever direction you look. Now that's the kind of place that I would love to be, where you can just look out and see mountains all around you. So we have eyes on how to get to use the taxiways to get back to the runways. Very simple airport, no frills, no big terminals. As I seem to have lost the multiplayer, so we'll give it a minute. We'll stop playing around. So I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday, whether you celebrate Christmas or something else. Spent time with as much family as you were able to. And what's important is the good food and the good company. So as long as good times were had, that's all that matters. I look out my window and see that most of the snow has practically melted away outside. Allie still has a whole other week off. How about that? I'm hearing things. So as everybody is back, there's Voodoo 9200 and there's Scott. So thankfully we didn't miss Scott's landing. There's a Voodoo 9200 in a Caravan with a bit of a bounce. Doing their best to keep it on center line. There's Scott in what appears to be the DA40. Maybe the DA20. Money says it's the 40. Glad to have you, ailerons. Hope you have a good evening, and we'll catch you next time. As old Scott makes a very nice landing. So, as Scott has made his landing, we'll get back into our little airplane. And we're going to start making our way to the runway to take back off. We're going to double check our altimeter setting. We're going to check our directional gyro. To use a little extra throttle to break the momentum of the softer dirt as opposed to asphalt. Get back down to a more reasonable level. We'll follow the taxiway down. So the METAR for our next stop, the winds are 240 at 12 knots. Clear skies, 10-mile visibility. Temperature of 18, dew point of -4, and an altimeter setting of 3001. glad you were able to fly along with us, Stu. I do hope you have a good evening, and we will definitely catch you in the next one. We're going to keep 7,500 as our autopilot setting for the next leg. Well, we were happy to have you along for as long as we did, Scott. And we look forward to the next flight. And we'll see you on the Discord. Are you in the steam gauge 172 or in the G1000? Just gonna sneak around a little bit here. Alright, so now that we're on the runway, we're going to confirm runway heading. (17 degrees, 17). I might have to do a video on that. It's gonna, especially because I'm not in the G1000 right now. It's gonna be a little hard to explain. So we're gonna slowly advance the throttle. Murphy is flying along in VR. I hope the Fireflies have extra fidelity in virtual reality. So we're rolling down the runway, keeping her on the center line as best as we can. 45 knots, airspeed's allowed 50, 55 knots, 1 notch coming down of flaps. 60 knots, we're in the air. Basically, off the top of my head, with the G1000, you turn the flight director on first. Then you turn on, you click the altitude hold button, and then you set the altitude with the knob. And then you can click on vertical speed mode, set the vertical speed, and then once you get taken off and stabilized, and you turn the, that was the wrong button, and turn the autopilot on, it'll automatically go right to those settings. So we're starting our left-hand orbit as everyone lifts off. Uh-oh, what'd Murphy do? I don't think you can. You have to set it after hitting the button. Ah, yes. I thought Murphy was hitting buttons. So we'll keep in this left-hand pattern for a little longer. Bad Dog approaches the runway. So as we're all getting up and away, as it were, gonna go ahead and kind of make a steeper turn. So we're going to engage the autopilot. We're going to set vertical speed for 300 feet per second. Gauge nav mode. The autopilot will move to engage the magenta line. As we're already almost at cruise altitude. About 600 feet short. As we have eyes on the fireflies. We're about to intercept the autopilot line. And we make our right-hand turn. As there's Chippy. the beautiful area of the world. There's Bad Dog. Okay, we're out of the airspace. The landing light comes off. As Murphy appears to be going his own way. This is our long leg. The first leg, let's see, 47. The first leg was in and of itself 100 nautical miles. This next leg that we're currently on is 107 nautical miles. And the last leg is the shortest of them all at 74. And that will be when we reach El Paso. Let's see. El Paso International Airport is field elevation is 3,961. So we should be at a good altitude for cruise the whole way at 7,500. Well, that's unfortunate, Murph. Well, you have plenty of time to join back into the flight. Things are getting a little bumpy now as it looks like Zostrus is now in the Baron. Oh, for sure, Jepson. It's beautiful out here. Keen Lafford is in. I hope you had a good Christmas as well. Mine was quite enjoyable. Nice and relaxed. Paul PG 1965 is in. Evening. Right now, and what's the route? We are on the East USA server, and we just took off from Kilo Delta Uniform Golf in Douglas, Arizona. We're just starting to fly into the Tombstone Sea MOA near the San Simon Valley, south of the Chiricahua Mountains. Aha, Murphy's Law never ceases to show its head. So we're going to back off the throttle to 2,500 knots, RPMs. Going about 105 knots indicated. So our throttle is at 93%, mixture is at 44. We're going to play around with the mixture a little bit. If we can't get the most power at this altitude as we can. Right about there. So mixture's right at about 50. So we'll actually, we'll get it up to 25. Sounds good, Paul. There's only 141 days until the Eurovision. And by my calculations, these mountains should be just peachy. And we should miss them easily enough. Of course, I've said that before and have had to adjust. And 363 days until Christmas. There we go. We have Dougal, we have Zostrus, we have Chippy, there's Moving Pigeon, White as Ice, Wayland, Warhamster, Voodoo 9200, Rad Pilot Randy, Jack Daniels, Arborchetta, and a glob of other Firefly. As well as Jeppesen 2001. It certainly is Kingsman. Without a doubt. We look around to see what there is. We're following a bit of a highway. And mountains and mountains and more mountains. Oh dear. It's definitely not what you want to find. Unless, of course, you're doing a SAR case, also known as a search and rescue. Search and rescue doesn't always turn out with a storybook ending, though. Hope you had a nice Christmas as well, Kingsman. Despite all the unpleasantness that is ambushing our world as of current. Oh dear. Chalk that up as one of those memories you wish you could forget. So we're going to keep an eye on this mountain range ahead of us, but we should be okay. Look at that. Just look at that. So I hear. I know you guys just had one at least on the southeast part of, or southeast of London, in that area, but been hearing rumblings about it for sure. 45 years ago. Oh my. See, this is one of the reasons why I like flying with the live weather, is because you get the nice cloud variation, because even with like scattered clouds, it's almost predictable because the whole area is covered with the same type of cloud cover. With the live weather, it has that nice variation of it changes the further you go. So it does look like we'll be fine flying over this little bit of mountain. Allison says it's hideous and so badly managed here. My apologies, and I always wish you all the best getting through all of that nonsense. Voodoo took off from Doug doing on-air company flights when I see all you guys taking off. We aim to surprise, and I know on-air's a lot of fun, and sometimes you never know what you're going to run into. But you made a nice landing for what it's worth, Voodoo. I believe we saw you take off just outside of Tucson, and we just happened to beat you to Doug. This is just the default default live weather. As white as ice is in the pits. Oh yeah, we're gonna get over these mountains just fine. Let's pop into the drone cam for funsies. That's not the button I wanted. That's the button I wanted. So we have a wild two-tone Murphy flying the generic Bonanza. You see Voodoo off in the distance. We wave them farewell. They join us for a short time. There's Wayland. Here's Moving Pigeon. Check that out. Now that's a diamond formation we've got going there. Just look at that. How about that, folks? Fantastic job by everyone. And that happens, the in and out. This is why we do group flights. You fly in an amazing place of the world, and to do it with friends makes it all worthwhile. It's easy to get trapped into the frustrations and the crashing to desktops and all of that, but this sort of stuff, this makes it all worthwhile. Absolutely awesome. You know, it's easy to get into a negative mindset about a lot of things, but Flight Sim has been one of those things that even with some of the frustrations with the crashing to desktop and, you know, figuring out what's causing a problem here and there, being able to fly with friends and make friends through flight simulation is just, it's been a highlight of the year. It's kept me sane. It's just been a very, very big bright spot in my year, and I'm grateful for all of you following along, whether it's flying along or just watching. It's been absolutely fantastic. Uh-oh. So let's check into the cockpit, and that's not the right button. That's the right button. Let's check on our fuel gauges. So we're down to about, we'll call it 12 gallons. We're about 60 miles from Deming. Keep wanting to add an N in there, and it's just, there's no N in between the M and the I. It's Deming. So we got about a half an hour until we reach there. So El Paso, no, that's the next stop. Ah, yes. There's comms set up. No textual METAR at KELP. Sorry, I had to play around. I hadn't actually checked out the... Did you look at that? I'll be darned. Sorry, I'm really distracted playing around with the GNS 530 mod. I don't think it did anything with the 430. Well, I could be wrong. I could very easily be wrong. Huh. I'll be darned. So sometimes you just forget to look at the little details and things, and, well, I'll be darned. It's neat to check out. Allison used to fly X-Plane, but it was always solo. This has been an amazing breath of fresh air to me. Met so many... Absolutely, Allison. You know, flying FSX, you know, I think I may have tried to play it online once, and just between my system not being up to snuff and internet issues, it just... Too many things kept me from doing it, and I'd get bored after a while, because I never really stuck with it. Because, you know, it's not the same thing as real flying, and while there's still a lot of truth to it, with my new system and being part of a community and having people to fly with, it's been awesome. I mean, just look at that. Peely, I believe I put it on the Two-Tone Murphy Discord under the freeware utilities. But I did find it on flightsim.to. And it's supposed to fix a lot of issues the default one has. Much like the G1000, 31,000, and GNX mods do. Many apologies, folks. That was a AMD crash. I got a flight sim and OBS crash. So Murphy, you weren't alone. Quite probably. Yeah, so much good flying, and the sim just wasn't having any of it. November Mike 86, roger that. Gotta wait for the flight sim to load. Also, interesting note, I didn't get a notification for Paul and Greyhawk subscribing to the YouTube channel, so many thanks there. OBS kind of let me down on that one. Okay, so November Mike 86. Go to KELP. By KDMN Deming, add light conditions, clear skies, live time, fly. So one moment, we'll be right back up in the thick of it. Okay. Ready to fly. Gonna go ahead and change comm frequencies because I'm gonna worry about that. 7,500. Do so many things going on. Parking brake off. Trim set, flap up. So lay on the power. So we're gonna go ahead, also change weather. So we're up. So on my way. There's Jefferson, there's Kingsman. Off to the west. We're gonna have mode. That's on GPS. Speed 1, 3. So I'll be catching up there, folks. Sorry about the interruption. Sim decided it wanted to be a problem. And apparently wasn't localized to me. And we're getting darn close to the airport. And I'll say this, one thing that helps me keep my cool on a lot of this, the whole crashing and stuff, is every now and then it'll happen to Murph. And Murph has a monster system, especially compared to mine. And so if it can happen to him, it's not necessarily me. I could, but I don't like using slew as much as possible. Slew is something I don't like using outside of extenuating circumstances, as it were. Oh, I'm Firewall. I got the throttle forward, and make sure you're set to max power. I'm hitting about 100 knots indicated. Roger that, Dougal. Well, if you guys get to the airport before me, just kind of circle it a little bit. So winds are indicating, I might need to update that a little bit. Winds are 240 at 13, gusting to 19. So we're going to look to land on runway, oh gosh, do runway 26. I'm indicating about 20 minutes out. Ground speed indicated of 112. Hey, Nick's here. Good to see you. Doing a thing, and then got just a 108.6. Six. Two. Let's see, if you have someone on your friends list, you can. I could. It was just easier to take the aircraft or the airport location and run with that. It's all good. It all works out in the end. Bothered that one. That's GPS. Sydney O says I'm on the Discord but not seeming to get. I'll have to adjust some permissions and whatnot. In group flights, you should be able to at least get into the water cooler now. Everybody is, or I think there are people on the Two-Tone Murphy Discord voice chat. Do a little bit of maintenance here while I'm at it. All right. Yeah, Allison and Warhamster and Wayland are on the Two-Tone Murphy Discord. I don't have a handy link for his Discord, but I can give him his channel a shout out, and there's a link there. Because quite honestly, if you enjoy my streams, you'll love Two Tone's streams. Yeah, there's always a learning curve, and I try to help out as best as I can. I try to make things fairly simple. And feedback is always greatly appreciated. So our altitude, we're right at about cruise altitude now. As BMF Smurfy is now following on Twitch, many thanks, my friend. Do appreciate it. We're just making sure all our instruments are... I will say this, having to start flying again, fix that. The low fuel as we have a longitude flying. Hello. There's the War Hamster. Okay, so I think everything's good. Now, not touch anything. We're about 13 minutes out. It's Leo the Lion in the Cessna longitude. There goes War Hamster. As War Hamster is having way too much fun. And we're just trying to catch up. So I have to figure out my post-stream dinner. It's either going to be a couple of ham and cheese sandwiches or some leftover Chinese food. To which the Chinese food is pork fried rice and beef and mushrooms. Either seems rather appetizing right at the moment. Dougal's still only at 90 knots. Well, I think we're slowly catching up. Wisdom says to go with the Chinese food. Sounds good to me. Let's double check the METAR running live weather. Let's see, 27th, 2153 Zulu, winds 240, 13 gusting, 19, 10 statute miles clear, temperature 19, dew point -6, altimeter 2999er. Pilot Peely has turkey or a slice of turkey. Well, I appreciate that, Kingsman. I do my best. Try to put on as good of a show as I can. I'm not one of those super wacky, high energy kind of people. And I'm not huge into the tube liners, so glad that there are people that enjoy what I put out there. Okay, we are 15 miles out. About 7.5 minutes. Yeah, we did turkey for Thanksgiving. I had about enough leftovers to take home and have one extra meal out of it. For Christmas, we did a ham, some mashed potatoes, asparagus, and then pie as a dessert. To which I still have another slice of pumpkin pie in the fridge waiting for me. I do have some extra ham left over and a little bit of asparagus. I took one slice out of the ham, chopped it into smaller chunks, and threw it in some eggs and ate that with some sausage for breakfast today. So a nice high protein, get my day running sort of meal. So we're looking at landing on runway 26. Mad Dog's leftovers will soon be curried. Awesome. That might be the airfield. As Kingsman is lower to the ground. Roger that, Noel. Don't blame you at all. I'm making my way there as fast as possible. Roger that, Dougal. So I'll get there, I'll land, and get set up for recording the landings. I'm about 4.5 minutes out, less than 10 miles. I believe this is the airfield. Could be 6. No. So we're gonna set the heading bug to 080. I'm gonna go to heading mode. Making sure everything's live. Good, good. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and disengage the autopilot. I'm gonna drop the throttle to 2,000 RPM. As we fly over the city of Deming. Ironically enough, the mountain range right there are named the Florida Mountain. And those right ahead are the Little Florida Mountain. So there's a fun little fact for you. Keep an eye on our engine settings. Keep an eye on where the airport's at. We try to keep our heading roughly at 080. Runway 26, Warhamster. Warhamster is rambling a man. Rambling doesn't sound as good as traveling man when you put it to the song. A traveling man, na 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 na, all over the world. So there's that runway. We're almost. Ugh. Have you heard the term dander in the sense of cat dander or pet dander? I have. Aha. So runway is in sight. We see Commandant Muttley down. We have the end of the runway in sight. We're going to set up for final approach. We're going to drop power to 1600 RPM as we make a slow left turn towards the airfield. We're in the white arc, so we'll go ahead and put the first notch of flaps out. Continue our turn to base. We're going to have to add a little bit of power because we're still a little ways out. It's good to know if I ever let me restart that phrase. If I ever get the chance to get out to Ireland, I'll be sure to understand that word. Catbat 9 is here. Welcome. Hope you had a fantastic holiday. Good to see you ramble in. We are landing currently at Kilo Delta Mike November. Okay, put another notch of flaps up. We're going to keep the RPM up. So we're going to basically be doing a very short final. Glad to hear your holiday was good. Okay, flaps are coming down. Thank you, Warhamster. Okay, we're gonna have the runway in sight, so we're going to power setting down. If I cut anyone off, I apologize. Burn back. There we go. Smooth. Aileron into the wind. Compensate rudder. So we're going to go ahead and just cut across the grass because we're not paying for it. So we'll park off to the side here. As everyone's popped out. We're gonna make our way because it shouldn't last terribly long. Hopefully people will pop back into reality on the server. and we'll see some landings. Otherwise, we'll wait here for a minute, see what happens. So it looks like we missed Alley Cat and Zostris. There goes Papa Joe B. There's Jack Daniels. We see Commandant Muttley again. There's Paul Geary. Catbat 9 is loading in. Awesome. There's Chilled Corky. Chippy Arnold in the Caravan. Dougal McTavish and Rad Pilot Randy in the 172s as Kingsman flies overhead. Jefferson 2001 doing the low pass. There's Warhamster in the X-Cub. Moving Pigeon in the TBM. Pilot Peely in a 172. There's R. Bachetta. White as Ice in the pits. Quasi Archer in the Bonanza. Wayland in the X-Cub. Bad Dog. Yes, everyone's had fantastic landings, so be very proud of yourselves. Make sure that who else we have incoming. We have It's Leo the Lion, Jefferson 2001, and Captain Redneck inbound. We'll turn our attention back to the runway, to the landing zone. There's Leo the Lion. Change from the longitude into the Caravan. There's Jefferson in the Extra. And Kingsman's up high. And I guess Captain Redneck moved along, which is just fine. That's no moon. Space station. Oh, there's Captain Redneck moving along further out in the distance as Kingsman 9965 is inbound. Flying in the clouds. I'm not entirely sure if you're planning to land. Ah, Kingsman has a gear issue. Don Matthews has to leave. Dog needs walking. Well, thanks for coming along. Glad you enjoyed it. And we'll catch you in the next time. Warhamster, what'd you think of The Mandalorian? I have thoroughly enjoyed the series. That's fair. Do we just have to ask the missus about that then? Fair enough. There's Kingsman. It absolutely does. So stay tuned. You might like it more than you think. Paul G has to go. We'll catch you next time. Glad you enjoyed it. So we'll get back into the lake cockpit. Parking brake comes off. Grease throttle to get out of the grass. Bring it back down to idle as we get onto asphalt. So we make sure that our trim setting is set for takeoff. Flaps are up. So we're going to, if everyone's ready to go ahead and make takeoffs, go right on ahead. I'm all caught up and ready to go. So I might turn a little bit of glare shield light on. So we're now going to be on the shortest leg of the trip, the final leg of the trip, on our way to El Paso, Texas. So we'll have been in 3 states over the course of this flight. We started off in Arizona, flew over the Boneyard, then flew over the city of Tombstone, and that was all in Arizona. Roger that, Kingsman. Mind the crosswind, everybody. Aileron into the wind. You're saying staying in all weather didn't account for 40 to 50 other peeps. Yeah, it happens. So there's 60. We're going to put on one notch of flaps, and we're off. So those that can do VR, how is everyone enjoying the VR experience? Flaps coming up. Head and start our casual left turn while everyone gets up and away. Off we go into the wild blue yonder. Off we go into the skies. I don't know the song after that. The area is insane. Everything that 12-year-old me used to dream about, the formation flying area was in. That's awesome to hear, Chippy. One day I shall join the ranks of the VR piloting stuff. As Chippy Arnold is now on his takeoff roll. Seems that this airport used to have a few different other runways. So now that everybody's off, we're going to go ahead and activate the autopilot. Put it on nav mode. Set the vertical speed to 300 feet a minute. A minute? A minute? Let's try that in English. As we begin our final leg, which is a relatively short leg, all things considered. The last two legs were just over 100 nautical miles. This one's just under 75. Look that up. Surprised if El Paso have its own VFR. So we'll tune into 118 points. No. 115.2. Yep, that's El Paso. Can't read that one. It's off the screen. Newman, so 112.4. This on a course of 103. About as close as I can get it. So we have the GPS set, we have the VORs set as close as we can get them. We've intercepted that one already. Just about. Probably a little bit of time before Nav 2 picks up its VOR. As we check on all our friends flying with us. As Chippy goes for the barrel roll in the Caravan, almost doesn't make it. Manages to save it. So, as we head towards El Paso, we'll look up the METAR. Current, as of 22:51 Zulu, winds are 230 at 7 knots, 10 statute mile visibility, few clouds at 18,000 feet, few clouds at 25,000 feet. Temperature is 20, dew point is -6, altimeter is 2998. So rather pleasant sounding weather in El Paso right now. The weather certainly looks nicer ahead, as the clouds have steadily followed us from Tucson. Seamus McNeil's here. We're back. Just drinking something healthy. The rental label, it has 41 grams of extra sugar. It's supposed to be cranberry juice, but it's only 25%. It's the rest of sugar. Uh-oh. By chance, what was the brand of this supposed cranberry juice? So that we may all avoid it in substitution for something healthier. Or at least so we can avoid it and find something healthier. Because I like me some cranberry juice. Oh dear. I mean, as long as it's real cane sugar, it's technically not completely completely wrong. Because sugar's a natural thing. But I do get the point of what you're saying is the added sugar. But I have noticed that cocktails do have a tendency to put in other juices instead of just the main one to kind of boost the flavor, and they'll add sugar to it. There you go. One brand I particularly like, although I'm definitely not sponsored by them, is the Simply. They make orange juice and apple juice and cranberry juice. And from what I recall, they don't have any added nonsense to them. Weather is getting nicer as we see Quasi Archer in an Air Force Bonanza. My favorite thing to do with the Simply juices is I take the cranberry and the apple juice and mix it together so you get a cran apple, and it's just, oh, so good. So what aircraft upcoming for Microsoft Flight Simulator is everyone excited for? Really excited for the F-15. I'm really interested to get the Focke-Wulf Piaggio 149 that just got released. Really looking forward to the Waco. Spitfire, as soon as we hear more about it. Milviz is working on a Cessna 310 that sounds amazing. More Hamsters excited for an AN2. .21 gigawatts. That would be another nice airplane. So if the winds are out of 2. I want runway 22. Yeah, the Coronado released a bit more, or a few more screenshots on their Facebook and the actual product page on their website, and it just looks phenomenal. And it looks like you also have the ability to cover the front cockpit, and removes the glass as well, so that you can it can be a one-seater essentially. Oh, P40 would be fantastic. I know DC Designs is working on a P61 Black Widow, so that's always interesting. I think as the Microsoft Flight Sim SDK matures, we're going to see a lot of awesome things come into the sim. And the crazy thing is we've already seen a lot, and the sim's only been out since mid-August. So it's pretty crazy. The Waco's out in early January. I can't wait for that. Dash 6 and a Dash 7 says Ed. I'll never see it, but I'd love to see somebody make a 175. But I would like to see somebody, or I think Coronado has a 170, which is basically a 172 tail wheel, no rear window, and a round tail. It was the direct predecessor to the 172. And performance and everything was pretty well similar. It'd be neat to see something like a Cessna 185. Although I have to admit, it would be, if I knew how to do it myself, I would put a Cessna 175 in, because you don't see. I mean, and I get that they're not popular for a reason. They didn't last long in manufacture, but it's a special little airplane because it filled a niche between the 172 and the 182, and it was a good looking airplane. That would be a nice one, a V-tail Bonanza, V36. With or without the tip tanks. Although I'll say this about the Coronado 182, I love it to death. It's a fun airplane to fly. Missed opportunity, being able to show or hide the wheel fairings. I believe the Jabiru has that as an option to be able to turn on or off. It would be neat to see that on the 182. Because as simple as it may sound, wheel fairings can really change the look of an airplane. And when I say wheel fairings, I'm talking about the wheel pans. I would love to see Coronado take all their fixed gear Cessnas and give them the option to turn on or off the wheel fairings for the mains and the nose separately. Oh yeah, even the 120 would be neat. 120, the 195, 185, 170, 140. It'd be neat to see them make a 152 tail dragger, because that's a common conversion. A lot of people will take the 152 and reinforce the structure a little bit and convert it to a tail wheel. Waco? I don't think there is a 210 out. There's a 182. I know that Coronado did a 210 for FSX. I would imagine they're going to bring it but that would be another neat airplane. G Slayer is here. Welcome. Good to see you. Glad you could make it to the stream. Looks like we're about halfway in the flight. Mountains are getting smaller and smaller and sparser until you look over there. Or even look up front. That looks like a big old crater, almost. We're still fighting getting the sun past the clouds. A P-51 would be awesome. And point to that, it would also be neat to see an A-36 Apache, which was the dive bomber configuration of the P-51A, turned into a ground attack. And the P-51A and the A-36 had an Allison engine in it instead of the Merlin. We are on the East USA server, G-Slayer. Other than the occasional everybody disappears bug that I think is a server problem. And I think a lot of that is simply because a lot of people got Flight Simulator for Christmas. Ha. Very nice. I've yet to even try out DCS. I don't have a good joystick. And I feel like to really get into DCS, having a good joystick is important. As it is, I've flown the Eurofighter Typhoon and the MB339 in this with a yoke, and it just feels wrong. Some of the small planes like the Savage Cub and whatnot, it can kind of make sense to use a yoke, even especially in the L-19, because the L-19 is based on the Cessna heavily based on the Cessna 170 with a less powerful engine, and the cabin's dramatically changed. But for any fighter planes, it feels really odd flying fighter jets or warbirds with a yoke. It just doesn't feel natural. Can't wait to see that, Murph. Of the fast twins, the 310's by far my favorite. The thing looks kind of like the airplane version of a Corvette. Can you imagine if Mooney made a twin? That'd be something. The helicopters would be fantastic, but it's a question of whether or not they'll ever, or when they'll add them in. I've heard a lot of good things about the UH-1 and DCS, as Leo Soccer 18 is now following on Twitch. Many thanks. I do appreciate it. We are headed to Kilo Echo Lima Papa, El Paso, Texas. See the P28, PA28 from Just Like looks incredible. That's one of the biggest ones to watch in 2021. That and the SF260 anniversary. Absolutely, and especially with the PA28, because outside of the 172, it's probably one of the it's probably the second most popular training aircraft out there. I mean, the 172 is the 172. It's just there's no getting around that. Most produced plane ever. But the PA-28's right there. Yes, the Huey UH-1. Anything from A2 will get my attention and probably money. Yeah. Well, I do appreciate that, Brian. I try to do the best I can. See, oh yes, in the Spitfire, that's going to be great. Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of folks flying with us today. It's pretty awesome. I've gone down a research hole about Mooney, because the main aircraft everybody knows is the Mooney M20, but they tried a lot of different things. including they had the first single-engine pressurized piston-powered aircraft known as the Mooney M22 Mustang. They also had a single-seat aircraft known as the M18 Mite, which is a single-person tricycle gear, retractable gear aircraft. That thing looks like a hoot and a half. But I digress. The T-45 is sweet. There's going to be a load in it. Yeah, it's going to be nuts. All the new stuff, sceneries, and aircraft that are going to come out within the next year. To see what we have that are just waiting in the wings now, only months after release, is just nuts. It's nuts to have what we have now, with the sim only having been out for 5 or 6, 5 months ish. It's just absolutely incredible. So now the question is, we should be able to get over these little old mountains. We'll be fine. We're about 15 miles out. Or about 7 minutes. Roger that. Very nice, Peely. So I do believe on the other side of these mountains is our destination. This is the big airport. And the stated METAR is 230. Well, for the sake of it, we're going to go for runway 26 right. Does it or a new one? I held my thumb up to the screen. Looks like we can make. I think we'll be good to go. In fact, I believe that may be the airport right there. Actually, that may actually be the Air Force Base. So right as soon as we get past these peaks, we'll start our descent. So if we look off that way, not too far off is Mexico. So we'll look at 26 right. Basically, we're looking for the small runway. Now, we don't need any comments alluding to anything political, if you don't mind. So welcome to El Paso. In this area, just on the other side, north of the International Airport, is, I believe it's north. Yep, north. So basically in the deserty area that way is Fort Bliss. So as we're getting further into the city, it looks like there's a mine right over there, tucked into the mountains. Don't fall in. So there's our airfield. I think. Reasonably sure. Okay, so this is Fort Bliss, and this is so our runway is right here. Small one in the middle. So we're gonna go ahead and get in the cockpit. Reset our view. We're gonna go ahead and disengage the autopilot. So from here, we're going to lower our power setting to 2,000 RPM. It's fantastic. If you think it looks good on the stream, you should fly it yourself. It's nuts. So we're going to fly over Fort Bliss just a little bit. Because our runway is right there. 26 right. Wow, that's a lot of nav points on one little map. Holy crap. Oof. Look at that little Garmin. So we're at 2,000 RPM. We're trying to drop as much altitude as we can because we had to get over the mountains. As we're flying over Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss? Fort Bliss. There seems to be a train depot of some sort. Now at this window, we'll see the International Airport here in El Paso. And you'll see the little runway that is the one we're stopping at. Because we're just little planes. We don't need the big old runway. As it seems like most everybody's going for a left-hand pattern, and me being me, am going for a right-hand pattern. That's fine. It'll all work out. I'll get down, get positioned, and get ready to record the landings. As we check out Fort Bliss a little bit as we fly overhead. Looks like they even have a couple of roundabouts of their own. Now, if you want to see something scary, put an average American in a roundabout and see what happens. Boy, that's something else. So we're going to use our trim to pitch up to speed. We're going to lower our throttle to 1600 RPMs for our continued descent and for landing. A little more lessons. There we go. Well, now we're in the white arc. One notch of throttle, one notch of flaps goes in. We'll compensate with trim. A little bit more throttling, get us back up to 1600 RPM. Gonna have to gain a little bit of altitude, so we're gonna add some power. Another notch of flaps in. Keep the nose trimmed down for speed. We have the runway in sight, kind of at a crooked base final hybrid. Add a bit more power in. We're getting real low. Compensate with the trim. We'll put that last notch of flaps in. We're at 2000 RPM. We're aiming for the center line as best as we can. We're going to have a little bit of a crosswind, according to the METAR anyway. Go ahead and start bringing back the throttle. Throttle goes to idle. The rudder to keep from going off the runway. Floating, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Firm pressure on the, there we go. And back to the center line. Set our idle power. And we'll pull off to the side. Some manual brakes. Set the parking brake. Get in the drone cam. I said get in the drone cam. And we'll catch some more landings. So runway 26 right is cleared for landing here in El Paso with a nice look at the mountains at sunset. There's Pilot Peely, first in the 172. And Captain Jack Daniels in the extra 330. Ooh, keep that thing centered. Those things are a real challenge in a crosswind. There's Catbat with a somewhat common issue of runway locations being different, which is very peculiar. There's Papa Joe B in a 172, and it's Leo the Lion in a Caravan. Nicely done. Commandant Muttley's in the VL3. I haven't flown that thing in a while. Nicely done, Noel. There's Quasi Archer and Jet Tech. Nice landings to the both of you. Zostrus in the Baron. Nicely done. Moving Pigeon in the TBM, and Chippy Arnold in the Caravan, as Leo the Lion goes around for a second attempt. There's 1K flights, and I believe the SR-22. Nicely done. Dougal McTavish in the 172. Stable as always. A little bit of a bounce, but that's okay. There's White as Ice in the DA-62. I can imagine it seems fantastic. One day I hope to be able to get a headset and join the VR revolution as Kingsman comes in with a nice landing. Followed by Alley Cats in a 172 and Bad Dog. Nicely done. Great landings so far, everyone. Rad Pilot Randy in the 172, a nice stable approach right down the center line. Nicely done. There's Wayland in the X-Cub, landing right on the squares. As Leo the Lion is doing some fly passes to the left, just off screen. Jeppesen landing in the extra 330. Followed by the one and only Warhamster. We zoom out, see who we have left. Warhamster is it. Or Warhamster just got in before the multiplayer decided to glitch out. So if I've missed your landing due to multiplayer deciding to disappear you, I do apologize. We'll give it a couple of shakes, see how it goes. We kind of explore around for a minute while there's everybody coming back into existence, and it seems that everybody is in fact down. So that being said, for everyone that joined us tonight, I'm sure I'm grateful whether you flew or just watched. Your presence is greatly appreciated. To the new follows and subscriptions, many thanks. I'm very, very grateful for each of you keeping me company along these flights. Let's see, thanks for the company. Good night, Noel. We'll catch you next time. But I'm glad everybody, we only had the one hiccup, which, huzzah. So until next time, be sure to check out the Discord to stay in touch in between streams. Two-Tone Murphy will have his normal schedule this week, I do believe, with the exception of maybe Friday. But, that being said, until next time, be good to each other, stay safe out there, catch you next time. Bye-bye.